Hello students, this is your teacher Manish, and in continuation with our Java playlist, we have reached to a situation or a position where we have started grasping critical concepts of object-oriented programming. We saw inheritance, we saw polymorphism in last couple of videos. In this video, we are going to get introduced to encapsulation. We'll understand the concept of encapsulation. Okay, so what does encapsulation really means? In a literal sense, you encapsulate by some wrapper, right? So if you have to give a gift to your friend, what you do, you wrap it in a presentation wrapper, right? And the reason is you want your friend to be surprised. You don't want your friend to know what is inside, right? Similarly, encapsulation object oriented means actually hiding something, okay, and typically it is nothing but hiding the data. Okay, so we use data encapsulation, okay, these words, okay, and it really means you encapsulate data, you hide data. So which is this data? Let us recollect what does class have, right? This class comprises of data elements, right? Now what are these data elements? These data elements are nothing but instance variables. Recollect our examples. We had created a class for cat, for dog, and what were the instance variables? Breed was an instance variable, age was an instance variable. So these, color was an instance variable. So something which describes the object of that class becomes the instance variable, and every object has got its own copy of instance variables, right? So basically data elements are nothing but instance variables. So class comprises of instance variables and class comprises of operations. We call them methods, right? So what are these operations? These operations are nothing but ways to manipulate these instance variables. So manipulation of instance variables happens through methods, right? So a class comprises of data elements and class comprises of methods, right? Now how do we hide these data elements? Okay, so we have something called as accessor modifiers. Although we'll have a separate video to understand what all the access modifiers are, but to understand encapsulation, I will introduce you to basically one critical access modifier, and which is private, right? So if you have your data elements with access modifiers as private, then you can achieve actually hiding of data. Okay, so if my instance variables are private, then those instance variables are available only within the class. If I want to create an object outside of the class into a different class, right, then those data elements, those instance variables are not directly available to me, okay, in that class. So I actually need to use some method which is either public accessor type or default accessor type. I need to use a method to actually access or manipulate that particular data element. So this functionality or this ability of class to encapsulate data, to hide implementation, and only expose those things outside the class which are expected is called data encapsulation. You will better understand this when we start using, or when I demonstrate it using a very simple code. Okay, so without wasting any of the time with this introduction, okay, let us quickly take a deep dive into the code and try to understand how data encapsulation can be achieved using appropriate access modifier. And let us get introduced at this point of time to some access modifier. Okay, we will have a separate video on access modifier later. Okay, so let's take a deep dive into code. So to understand the concept of encapsulation, we are going to develop one .java file, or which will have two classes. Okay, so without actually spending any further time, let's quickly start coding. So I am having a class called remote control. Basically everybody knows what remote control is. We typically use it for increasing or decreasing the volume of your television. You will use remote control for putting it on off. So it's a small class in which I'm going to have couple of methods which will actually, one method will increase the volume and another method will basically decrease the volume. Okay, so let us start. So I'm going to save it as our Java source file. Okay, so quickly I'm going to select it as Java source file, right? And then I'm just giving it name as remote control. Okay, now let us have, okay, one variable int volume. Now looking at this, you will immediately understand that this is a instance variable. Okay, now I am going to have, okay, a constructor defined, right? Because I don't want a default constructor, and basically I am going to set the volume equals to 1. So my constructor actually initializes my instance variable to 1. Now I am going to have couple of instance methods. Okay, one is increase volume. Okay, and well, of course these methods are not going to return anything, hence their return type is void, and I am going to just increase the volume, okay, by incrementing it to 1. Similarly, I am also going to declare, okay, another method. So I am just copying the method of increase and giving it name as, okay, decrease, right? Decrease. Okay, and then I'm going to decrement my volume, right? So this is what I have in my class remote control. So this will be my end of my class. After that, I'm going to declare another class. Basically I'm just giving a name to it as demo501. Basically I would say this is going to be my implementation class. And why it is my implementation class? Because I am going to have my public static void main method declare in it, right? And we all know what it does. It is the invoking method. Okay, and demo0501 becomes my executable class. Now within this class, okay, within this method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a object RC, okay, RC, which is an object and it's of type remote control, right? So it is of type basically remote control, right, and RC equals to new, and I'm going to call basically remote control. Okay, and if you see I did a mistake here, I'm just rectifying it. Okay, it has to be remote control because it is my constructor. Okay, so I call remote control, it's my constructor, so instance variable would get initialized to 1. Okay, and after that I'm going to invoke, okay, I'm going to invoke increase volume, right, and after that I'm just going to do system.out.println rc dot, okay, rc dot volume, right. So that's it. I am ending this public static void main method. I am putting an end to my demo class as well. Okay, so very simple .java file comprises of two classes. One class is the remote control class, which has got one constructor, which has got one instance variable and two instance methods. One is increase volume, another is decrease volume. Second class is demo 501, simple implementation class. I create one single object. I invoke increase volume method using the object, but when I am printing, okay, I am printing the value of instance variable volume, okay, which is something which I have used using the object. Okay, so object dot volume. Okay, so I'm doing nothing, I'm just saving this, right, and I'm going to compile this program, right, and the output is pretty clear. What you can easily guess what the output is going to be, right. So let us first compile it. Okay, so I have missed so on line number 22, which is here, I have missed a semicolon, right, and I'm just going to save it again and compile it. Okay, so here we go, compiled it successfully. I'm going to execute the program. Remote control. Okay, so fine, you guessed it right, I cannot execute remote control because remote control is not my implementation class. Remote control doesn't have main method in it, and I have main method in demo 501, and this is how I can execute my program. And what actually got printed is 2 because I am incrementing the value of volume by 1. So basically the constructor initialized volume to 1, okay, and increase volume incremented the volume to 2, and that is what got printed. Now in this, if you see, I have two classes and I am actually accessing the instance variable directly from demo 501 class. Now suppose I make my instance variable as private. If I make my instance variable as private, okay, then remember private is an accessor modifier, and in this case if volume is declared as private, then volume can only be available within the class. I cannot actually directly use volume, okay, in another class. Okay, so I'm just going to save this, okay, and I will try to recompile it and let us see what happens. Okay, so I try to recompile it, and if you see, I get a error on line number 24, and it states, okay, it states basically that my volume has private access in remote control system.out.println rc.volume. Okay, which means if I have declared modifier is default, I can access the methods or instance variable, okay, from within the package. So all the classes which are in a specific folder or in a package can access this. Now since I have nothing declared here, it becomes a default, and since it is a default, another class which is creating the object of type, right, remote control, can invoke the method, okay, of this class, whereas my instance variable is private, and hence it is only available within the scope of this particular class. Okay, so in this way, what I have actually achieved is I am encapsulating my data elements, okay, by declaring them with access modifier as private, and it is a best practice to actually declare all the instance variables within a class to be private, okay, and then you actually manipulate, which is you set the values of those variables using methods, or you actually get the values of those methods using get methods. Okay, so we can have set methods and we can have actually get methods to set and get the values, but data elements cannot be directly accessed by any of the objects created outside the class. Okay, and this is what data encapsulation is. Okay, so I hope you have understood this basic aspect of data encapsulation. Okay, let me quickly summarize before I close the video, right? So data encapsulation can be achieved by declaring, right? So by declaring all instance variables within a class with access modifier as private, right? When an access modifier is private, it actually means that those elements are available or can be directly accessed from within the class. Okay, from outside the class, one need to use methods to access these instance variables, right? Objective of this video was to help you understand the concept of encapsulation. In my next video, we will talk about packages and subsequently we'll speak about other access modifiers as well, and our understanding of access modifiers will further get strengthened, okay, when we really see the examples of public, private, default and protected access modifiers. Okay, so I hope you understood what encapsulation is. If you have liked this video, do like, do share it. If you haven't subscribed my channel yet, please do subscribe it. I have been getting good feedback, so keep writing me feedback as well. Okay, and bye till then.